No, it's John Carl.
Oh, this calendar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Johnny.
Yes, I've got you.
Did you get a response?
Nope.
Not shocking. He's got a standard for
Oh, yeah, gather when?
We're supposed to gather in 3 minutes.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Hey, gang, what's up?
That's done. We'll be on the roof here. We'll take it from the computer.
Hey, Jeremy. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. No, wait, is that everything to see? Yes, sir. Yeah. I'll just jump. Yeah. You got that. Yep. Can you guys check focus? Trying to do it now. You have to forgive it. It's getting a little old. The eyes don't focus as sharply. What's the verdict, Doug?
Stand by.
It's like we're holding hostage.
Yeah.
I just hope that this is gonna happen before we know. Or this will happen first.
So you get 2 minute or anything?
What's that?
2 minute warning or anything?
Negative.
Did you get a 10-minute one?
Negative.
Hour one?
Close.
Any comments?
47-minute warning.
Stand by.
Is there a spray? Is there a
Hmm?
spray? Is there a spray?
Yeah, 2:30. Pool assembles a couple minutes ago.
Doing great, Doug.
You're doing those cases where they call the pool before the brief?
Yeah, we're in the middle of it. Kelly, how are you?
Wonderful, sir. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Here?
All good, my brother. Mayor of the.
No. You need hot mics? Right?
Danny, good afternoon to you. We're about 24 minutes late for the briefing, but we do expect that it will happen soon. It will need to because the president's got an event which is supposed to start in about 5 minutes. So somehow they'll have to work out the schedule. But to your point, though, President Trump pushing back against criticism of that upcoming rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The president pointing out the same people who are being critical of him were not critical of the large crowds that gathered in the streets across America over the last couple of weeks, some of which resulted in violent demonstrations. The president tweeting, the far-left fake news media, which had no COVID problem with the rioters and looters destroying Democrat-run cities, is trying to COVID shame us on our big rallies. Won't work. Now, we should point out that the director of the Tulsa County Health Department has encouraged the president to push back the rally from Saturday night, saying there's been a spike of coronavirus cases in Oklahoma. Putting a large crowd into the BOK arena probably isn't a good idea at this time. There were 225 new coronavirus cases in the state of Oklahoma on Saturday. That number, though, down to 158 as of yesterday. The Republican mayor in the city of Tulsa, G.T. Bynum, he is encouraging the president in support of that political rally coming up on Saturday. Bynum tweeting, quote, in Tulsa, we protect the free and peaceful exchange of ideas. We did it during the last 2 weeks of protest, and we will do it during the president's visit to Tulsa next week. We will also continue to follow the state of Oklahoma's guidelines for a safe reopening. As you pointed out, the president did push that rally back by a day. The original date, this Friday the 19th, is Juneteenth, which is celebrated by African Americans across the country as the traditional day of emancipation. That's when a Union general landed on Galveston Island and set free everyone who was enslaved there. The Trump campaign reporting that more than 800,000 people have registered for this event. The arena holds only 19,000, so some 780,000 people won't be able to attend, but I think it's safe to say, Dana, that most of those people probably just registered because they wanted to show their support with probably no intention of actually going to the event. Thank you.
Definitely a hot night there.
You can't breathe at these things.
I know, right?
Sorry.
You can't really put a mic in it.
Pardon me?
You can't really put a mic, you know, on the
I
wall.
mean, you could, but
Yeah, a lot right there.
you
Gets you when you
but
sniffle.
it's like when you're trying to suck in the amount of air you
Yeah.
The press briefing will now begin after the president's roundtable. Restricted in-house pool, please gather at the press briefing room doors.
Like I said.
What's up, Doug? Is this your fault, Doug?
Yep, all COVID fault.
Your fingerprints on the ground.
We're in the cabinet.
Yes, sir.
I'll go in, ahead of you, Brian, and go to the far side.
Yeah, we're out there, kind of, lengthways of the table, we're like straight down.
Oh, it's lengthways at the table?
The whole, yeah, everybody's looking at us on the other
Oh, it's not,
side. No, there were no other seats on the other side.
oh, that's interesting. So they got you at one end of the table?
No,
Oh, you wanna work
one's
today?
dead across from where he sits.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like a normal thing, it's just that there's nobody else.
Okay, well, like I said, I'll go in ahead of you.
Yeah, yeah.
I asked you to go to the far
Everybody's
side.
still okay? All right, good deal, no change since this morning when I saw you inside.
I didn't get that call, thankfully, so
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
No news is good news.
I thought about texting you a thumbs up, but then I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Well, you don't have to text
What
me.
are all those missed calls on you?
I don't answer, that's COVID call.
All right, so you feeling okay? No change since this morning? All right,
It's
perfect.
gotten a little more ornery since.
Yeah, exactly.
You might need a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
So you go on the near side or the far side?
Sorry about you.
Just-
Okay.
Set up normal?
Yeah, you said to set up that.
All right, perfect.
There's just no seats.
Like I said, you're,
If you have time.
Sure. Man, you
That'd
feeling
be
okay
great.
since
Thank you
this
so
morning?
much.
Exactly.
down.
Gucci's
And Evan, yeah. You're not going in, all right? You want, just in case I'm here, you know?
I'm pretty sure I'm good. Thank you.
You bet, have a good day.
Hey, no,
Good to see you.
see you too. You're working too hard.
You didn't listen.
I know, I was here.
Okay. No, I'm at the White, I'm the producer today, so I'm at the White House. Ed said White House like 5, push the play out on?
Last one, last three.
Stand by, stand by. White House line 3. He said White House line 3 is going to pull from. Do we put that now to 6, or do we need another one? Sorry, I know it's confusing.
Yeah.
That's fine, we can let it. Okay, so, we're doing it on. Yes, it's in play out, White House line 3. Okay, okay, I'll let, Jody and H know as well, that we're gonna take it off the line now. And then, yeah, I'll send an email and then I'll do an on-call as well. And then that means the head office will stay, but yeah. Perfect. Okay, perfect, thank you so much. Thank you, okay.
Yeah. Right.
We're 1 week into New York City's reopening, and I'm here to check out how Chinatown has been doing. The neighborhood has been hit particularly hard by the coronavirus economically because of its dependence on tourism, restaurant, and retail, all of which have been suffering during the coronavirus, starting as early as January because of people's prejudice against the Chinese. Today, I'm going to talk to some of the small businesses and see how they're doing as they navigate the reopening. I'm now outside of Nanhua Tea Parlor, an iconic dim sum place in Chinatown. Usually you'd see people lining up outside waiting as much as 1 hour just to be seated. Now the restaurant is only offering takeout and delivery. You can see that a few people are sitting outside waiting for their dim sum.
It was slow at first when the lockdown first started, but then there was a lot of panic buying. But now slowly everyone's opening back up, but there's not enough foot traffic for all of us to survive on. My business really relies on the weekend customers, the ones that are from out of state or out of town. Hopefully it gets better because this is only phase 1. Let's hope everyone's just coming out.
会准备现在要准备开，也会支持政府说要开，因为毕竟我们是谈吃的嘛，谈吃的，但是要有法律的规定，看看怎么样来防护措施做得好，我们才准备开业。
And to all you wonderful women that got
Kwa taarifa za leo nilizoletewa, naomba tu
Despite the challenges that we may have in some of the countries, we try to keep the door open for continuous dialogue. The good thing in Tanzania is that we never stop the interaction with the ministries. Maybe we were not receiving regular data, but at least we will continue to advise them on what needs to be done. It is another step for them to take it into account and implement it fully. Last week, the ministry deployed epidemiologists in the field out of the capital city, and WHO was asked to join the team. So it's at least a good step, even if we don't have data being shared with the world, but at least they are opening up to accept our support, our advice.
tumeamua tumtangulize Mungu. Tulianza na Mungu na tutamaliza na Mungu. Na katika hali halisi, Mungu amesikia sala zenu.
I'm joined by designer and founder Aurora James from Brother Bellies, who came up with a way for companies to actually show their solidarity aside from just posting on social media.
The 15% pledge is a business-to-business ask. So we're asking Target, Whole Foods, we're asking Shop and Nordstrom to come to the table and commit 15% of their purchase power to Black-owned businesses. That means their shelf space, anyone that they're working with, their vendors, really trying to hit 15% and have some awareness around what they're doing and how they're spending their money. We're incredibly excited to announce that Sephora is taking the pledge. The ones that we haven't heard from, their silence is of course deafening. The Black community and also America is waiting. It's not like this is a request from just Black people. This is a request from everyone. This started out as a simple ask that I made on my own private channel, and we now have almost 100,000 names on a petition. These are very real customers that are calling on all of these businesses to step up and take the 15% pledge.
We saw a lot of brands posting the Black Square, a lot of people posting the Black Square on Blackout Tuesday, and some people referred to that as being a little bit performative.
I think for a lot of brands, it was easier for them to just post a Black Square than to talk about what they want to do. I was seeing, but I wasn't necessarily feeling it. I really wanted to start understanding what kind of actionable change it would take from them in order for me as a Black woman and a business owner to feel supported. It's easy to write a check. A lot of them write checks all the time, but it's a lot harder to commit to long-term growth and also accountability. And we can all help you make the American business landscape better and more fair. We're really pooling those resources intellectually to figure out how to get over some of these hurdles. That's what we're asking people for. I'm not asking people for a black box. A black box isn't going to save lives or uplift communities when we really need it.
我度根本都未同人打過交，成世仔都未打過交，都仲係以柔制剛呢樣嘢。除咗功夫玩得好之外，就會影響人生，影響到喺社會上，影響到自己嘅性格啊等等。因為我生長係一個榮春嘅家庭，細路仔嘅時候，我記得6、7歲嘅時候咧，睇老豆同埋一班人喺度自己個屋企處玩嘅。咁喺嗰個時間曾經有學過嘅，但係好短時間就唔學啦。老豆又冇理我嘅，一路學下唔學，學下就停咗，學下就停咗。38歲嗰年，嗰年應該係62年嘅，1962年。嚟咗香港之後咧，真正學功夫。依家嗰68年開始有，但係詠春同其他功夫嘅特色咧，詠春就係一門以柔制剛嘅功夫，能夠利用小嘅力對付啲健碩嘅力，或者係細小嘅身材能夠應付嗰啲大件啲嘅身材。當然咁要做到呢樣嘢，一定要喺詠春嘅技巧有一定嘅造詣先至能夠做得到。所以學詠春真係玩啲咧，就10年8年隨隨便便，最多啲幾廿年嘅。喺我嚟講最緊要話明嘅啫，功夫唔係短時間就學到㗎，喺一個較長嘅時間，你知道有咁嘅準備就好啊。我下半世嘅生活比較安定，全靠詠春養大我嘅啲兒女。 所以自己亦都應該有生之年應該盡量為年輕做到幾多就做幾多嘢，自己嘅。
Not good, not good.
There's never been this much effort. There's never been this much money spent. We're taking good care of them, and thank you all very much. Thank you.
Mr. President, can you tell us about your executive order tomorrow? A little on your executive order tomorrow. Can you tell us sort of the broad brushstrokes of police use of force reform, as well as enhancing opportunity in communities across the country?
I'd rather save it for tomorrow, John, but basically we're going to be talking about things that we've been watching and seeing for the last month, and we're going to have some solutions, I think some good solutions, and some of it, as you know, it's about great people. We need great people in our police departments, and we have mostly great people. I would say that. I would say that with certainty. We have mostly great people. I know so many of them, law enforcement. But we will do better, even better, and we're going to try and do it fast. So we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to have a news conference tomorrow. We have a lot of law enforcement coming in and others, and they have seen what we're doing. I've sent it around. I've asked for suggestions from different groups, in particular the sheriffs, and I've sent it to our Attorney General, and I think, Bill, you've gone to some of your people with it and shown it. I think it's pretty comprehensive. As you know, Congress is also working on it. The Senate's working on something, and the House is working on two elements of the House. You have the Republicans and the Democrats, and they're each working on their own. But we can get it done, and we'll get it done, and certainly we can add on to what we do by the work that's being done in the House and in the Senate. If we think it's appropriate, maybe they can get something passed, and maybe they can't, but we will get it passed. And it's got to be passed by one person, and the person's me, so we're going to be signing it tomorrow, and we'll have a news conference at some point in the day at the Rose Garden, or maybe in front of the White House at a different location that you know very well, the steps. And we'll see you tomorrow.
What's the overall goal? Let's go. Let's go. Come on, guys. What's the overall goal of the executive order and all of these reforms?
So the overall goal is we want law and order, and we want it done fairly, justly. We want it done safely, but we want law and order. This is about law and order, but it's about justice also, and it's about safety. So I think we're going to do a good job tomorrow. I think you're going to see some things that a lot of people thought would not happen. You wouldn't be able to get them done, but we'll get them done. Again, though, I want to emphasize it's possible the House can also, on top of this, I spoke to the various leaders, on top of this can get something. But I think this will be very comprehensive tomorrow, so you'll see something. Yeah, please.
What do you think of the Atlanta shooting video that you've seen versus George Floyd?
I thought it was a terrible, I'm not going to compare things, but I thought it was a terrible situation. I studied it closely. I'm going to get some reports done today, very strong reports, and we'll have a little more to say about it tomorrow, but certainly it was to me, it was very disturbing.
Mr. President, disturbing counsel.
Go ahead, please.
Do you have any reaction to the Supreme Court decisions earlier today about LGBT discrimination, saying that is protected under the Civil Rights Act?
No, they've ruled. I've read the decision, and some people were surprised, but they've ruled, and we live with their decision. That's what it's all about. We live with the decision of the Supreme Court. Very powerful decision, actually. But they have so ruled. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, can you react to the FDA's decision today to withdraw its recommendation for hydroxychloroquine and another malaria drug, saying it's no longer considered reasonable as a useful treatment for COVID?
I don't know. I'd like to ask Alex maybe to discuss that.
Sure. So just to clarify your statement there, I don't think was quite accurate in what the FDA's action was. The FDA, at the request of BARDA, which is an agency within HHS, withdrew an emergency use authorization for product that we had acquired into the national stockpile by donation from Bayer of chloroquine that was manufactured in Pakistan. And the EUA, the emergency use authorization, was restricted for hospital use, inpatient hospital use of the product. With the FDA finding that they don't see enough data to support hospital-based use for those who are the most extreme cases of patients who've been hospitalized, they took that restriction off. They took the emergency use authorization off. At this point, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine are just like any other approved drug in the United States. They may be used in hospital, they may be used in outpatient, they may be used at home. all subject to a doctor's prescription. In fact, the FDA's removal of the emergency use authorization takes away what had been a significant misunderstanding by many that had made people think that somehow it could only be used in a hospital setting, and we've tried to make that clear throughout. It's a drug, it's approved in the United States, has been for decades. If a doctor wishes to prescribe it working with the patient, they may prescribe it for any purpose that they wish to do so, and this actually removes a potential barrier to that.
So it actually uncomplicates it.
It does.
In a way. And I think that's probably, your question was a very inaccurately stated question.
I didn't mean to pose it inaccurately. I believe what it said specifically was that it's no longer reasonable to consider it an appropriate treatment.
Only in the hospital, it said the data in the hospital setting was not supportive. We continue to study in outpatient settings as well as preventive. That data is not yet in.
Are you suggesting that the data in the hospital setting is not something you would take seriously?
No, that's why the FDA acted, was that they looked at the data and they removed the emergency use authorization for hospital setting use of the chloroquine that was the Bayer product that had been donated from Pakistan.
Mr. President, earlier today you tweeted that you believed that you were being COVID shamed because of your decision to go ahead with the Tulsa rally on Saturday night. The director of the health department in the county and in the city has encouraged you to postpone that, saying they still think that they've got too big a COVID problem for you to pull off a rally like that. Your thoughts on it?
Well, Oklahoma's done very well. I just spoke to the governor. He's very excited about it. Governor Stitt, who's done a terrific job. Mike, I think you can maybe speak to this. He's done a great job. Oklahoma's at a very low number. They've done really fantastic work. They have a pretty new, magnificent arena, as you probably have heard, and we're getting exact numbers out, but we're either close to or over 1 million people wanting to go. We have a 22,000-seat arena, but I think we're going to also take the convention hall next door, and that's going to hold 40,000, so we'll have 22,000 plus 40,000, which would mean that we'd have over 900,000 people that won't be able to go, but hopefully they'll be watching. But it's an amazing, nobody's ever heard of numbers like this. I think we're going to have a great time. We're going to talk about our nation. We're going to talk about where we're going, where we've come from. And I can tell you on COVID or coronavirus or whatever you want to call it, plenty of names, tremendous progress is being made. I spoke with the governor of Texas, where they've done a fantastic job, and he said they have had some outbreaks in prisons, and that's where their numbers went out. And the numbers change a little bit because of the prison population, but he's got it in great shape. Texas, Florida's doing very well. Georgia's doing very well. We have tremendous numbers. We have hot spots, as I said, you might, and we take care of the hot spots. But many of the governors have done a very good job. Some not as good as others, some very good. But Oklahoma's been a place that I think one of the reasons we chose it is because of how well because it's early. It's very early. And because of what a great job the governor and everybody else has done in Oklahoma. And we expect to have, it's like a record-setting crowd. We've never had an empty seat, and we certainly won't in Oklahoma. Mike, you want to talk about how well Oklahoma's done relative to other places?
Certainly, Mr. President. The President and I have both spoken to Governor Kevin Stitt in the last several days and even earlier today, and Oklahoma has really been in the forefront of our efforts to slow the spread, and in a very real sense, they flattened the curve. And today, their hospital capacity is abundant. The number of cases in Oklahoma has declined precipitously, and we feel very confident going forward with the rally this coming weekend. We're working closely with the governor. We'll have measures in place to be screening people coming in to the facilities, but Oklahoma's really led the way in demonstrating that we can safely reopen. And so as we gather to hear from the president and hear about the stakes in this election, we'll also be celebrating a state that's demonstrated every day that you can put health first and open up and do all those things at the same time.
And Mike, you gave me a number before nationwide. Overall, how are we doing?
Well, it's really remarkable, Mr. President, with more than 22 million tests having been performed across the country, we continue to see overall that the what's called the positive test rate remains very stable in the country. As we said earlier, Mr. President, there's a few states where the positivity rate is climbing, and we're working very closely with those governors to identify that. You mentioned that in the state of Texas, there was one county where there were literally 3 prisons that had individual outbreaks. That accounted for literally hundreds of new cases in a single day. We're also seeing in Imperial County, California, people who Americans who may live on the opposite side of the border in Mexico coming home, and that's showing up in some of their numbers. But overall, the American people, I think, are to be commended, Mr. President, that because of the steps they've taken and continue to take, we're demonstrating that we can safely reopen. And where we saw coronavirus positive cases 6 weeks ago, over 30,000. Now it's averaged in recent weeks roughly 20,000 new cases a day. As I said, the positivity rate remains flat. Hospitalizations for coronavirus are declining all over the country. And most importantly, our fatality rate continues over a 7-day average to continue to decline. The President's always quick to say one loss of life is too many. But when we think about a matter of a month and a half ago, when we were losing 2,500 Americans a day, now that we see the numbers declining so precipitously, I think it's a real tribute to our healthcare workers, tribute to every American that has demonstrated each and every day that we can reopen our country, but we can continue to put the health, particularly of our most vulnerable, first.
And yesterday's number was approximately what?
According to some public reporting, Mr. President, I'll have more details later this afternoon, less than 400 fatalities yesterday all across the country.
So that's a far cry from what it was a month ago or 2 months ago, and it's a lot. It's 400 people too much. Shouldn't have happened at all. China should not have let it happen, but it happened. All over the world it's happened, which is a very sad thing, but our number is really the low water mark, and it's getting better, and it'll end up being gone. We're making very good headway with respect to vaccines, Alex, so we're making very good headway therapeutically and a cure-wise. Really, I think really tremendous headway. I've seen the results. I've met with some of the people that do the work, smart people, great people, people that have succeeded before. I think vaccines are coming along far in advance of what they thought they would be. And I think we'll have some very good news for you on vaccines and therapeutics and cures, frankly, because I guess, if you look at therapeutics, if it acts fast enough, I guess you call it a cure, wouldn't you say? So I think we're going to have some very good news on that. But we're at a low mark, and some of them, like in Texas, where you had a prison population that went heavy, and now it's controlled. So we understand the disease. We've learned. I was with the governor of New Jersey the other night, and we had a great talk about economic development, and we're going to be doing a big bridge that they've been looking for I guess he said since 1918 they've been looking to redo it. So that's a long time. But and we've agreed to do that. It's about $900 million. But he had mentioned 2,500 deaths or 12,500 deaths. 12,500 deaths, and out of that, there was one death under 18. I said, say it again. So it was over 12,000. I guess the exact number was 12,500. And they did the study from that point, and out of that, one death was under the age of 18, which is pretty amazing. I knew it was, which tells me the schools hopefully are going to be back in the fall. They're going to be back in full blast. But the young people, they have very strong immune systems. I imagine that's the reason. But they've come out of this at a level that's really inconceivable. By the way, the regular flu, other flus, other things, SARS or H1N1, any of them, if you look at the young people, they were affected like everybody else. But for whatever reason, with respect to COVID, the numbers are very, very low. So, yeah, please.
Mr. President, are you still sending hydroxychloroquine to Brazil and other countries?
Yeah, he's asked for it, and we're sending it. Well, I can't complain about it. I took it for 2 weeks, and here we are. And we've had some great studies. I didn't know about the report that Jeff asked about, or the statement, but we've had some great reports coming out of France, coming out of Spain, coming out of other places. The only place we don't get necessarily reports are coming out of Alex's agency or wherever they come from. I don't understand that, Alex. What is it exactly? Because I have had so many people that were so thrilled with the results from hydroxy. So what is that exactly?
Well, at your direction, we continue to study, especially in earlier phase. So a lot of the data that has come out that was more negative was people who were quite ill in the hospital.
People that were like seriously ill, like they weren't going to make it. Let's give them a little hydroxy, and then they don't make it, and they say, oh, wow, maybe the president was wrong. All I know is that we've had some tremendous reports. I've had a lot of people tell me that they think it saved their lives. You know, the one woman who's a fantastic woman, the representative from Detroit, she was fantastic. But there are many people like that say the same thing. So I don't know, but I took it and I felt good about taking it. I don't know if it had an impact, but it certainly didn't hurt me. I feel good.
And
Mr.
President,
yeah.
The House Republicans today, they are asking you to reverse your decision on terminating the relationship with the WHO. Would you consider that?
I don't know. I have to see what they're asking. I have no idea what they're asking.
It was after an investigation.
I have no idea what they're asking. But I'll take a look. The World Health Organization has been very disappointing. To the world, they've been disappointing. And we, as you know, paid $450 million and close to $500 million on some years. But for years and years, we paid far more than anybody else. And they've been a puppet of China. And so, no, I'm not reconsidering unless they get their act together. And I'm not sure they can at this point, but maybe certainly over the years they might. But they have been a disaster. They were wrong on every call, including when I said we're going to close up the United States to people coming in from China, where China was heavily infected at that time and possibly still is. And I closed it, and that was a wise decision. There were a lot of people, even on the other side, the enemy, we'll call them the enemy, they said that was an incredible decision. I don't know how Trump made that decision, but he made that decision, and we saved thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of lives. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, just on a separate issue.
No.
I apologize.
Mr. President, can you say why you're suing John Bolton to prevent publishing his book?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask the Attorney General, but I will say if he's doing a book, I think it's totally inappropriate that he does a book. I think a guy, I gave him a break. He couldn't get Senate confirmed. He was never Senate confirmed the first time. I don't think he's supposed to even be calling himself an ambassador because he couldn't get Senate confirmed. He got in through a little trick, and he was there for a fairly short period of time. I put him here because he couldn't get Senate confirmed. This was a non-Senate confirmed position, as you know. He stayed for a short while, and I felt that it was not appropriate that he stay any longer. I wasn't impressed. And somebody said he went out and wrote a book. If he wrote a book, I can't imagine that he can because that's highly classified information. Even conversations with me, they're highly classified. I told that to the Attorney General before. I will consider every conversation with me as president highly classified. So that would mean that if he wrote a book and if the book gets out, he's broken the law. And I would think that he would have criminal problems. I hope so. Otherwise, I mean, they put a sailor in jail because he sent a photograph of his bed and an engine of an old submarine. And if this guy's writing things about conversations or about anything, and maybe he's not telling the truth. He's been known not to tell the truth a lot. So we'll have to see what the book is all about. But, you know, a lot of people are upset with him for writing a book. A lot of people are very angry with him for writing a book. But it's up to the Attorney General. Bill, do you have anything to say about it?
Well, people who come to work in the government and have access to sensitive information generally sign an agreement that says that when they leave government, if they write something that draws on or might reflect some of the information they've had access to, they have to go through a clearance process before they can publish the book. And we don't believe that Bolton went through that process, hasn't completed the process, and therefore is in violation of that agreement.
So what is the DOJ doing?
And that's criminal liability, by the way, you're talking about. You're not talking about like he's got to return $3 that he made on a book. That's called criminal liability. That's a big thing. You know, Hillary Clinton, she deleted 33,000 emails. And if we ever found out what those emails say, she would have had a liability. That's what you have. You have liability.
Could the Attorney General tell us what the DOJ is doing in terms of the Bolton book?
Well, there are a number of things, but the thing that is front and center right now is trying to get him to complete the process, go through the process, and make the necessary deletions of classified information.
But the book has been published.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it's been published. It's just not released yet.
Well, it's being printed. It's being
Hasn't been
printed.
released.
According to sources, it's being printed. It hasn't been released.
So are you going to court to try to stop?
Well, I said what we were doing was try to get him to complete the clearance process that's required.
His lawyer says that he thought that they had completed the process. Were there changes after that first iteration?
Well, he hasn't completed the process.
He never completed the process. He knew that.
This is unprecedented, really, because I don't know of any book that's been published so quickly while, the office holders are still in government, and it's about very current events and current leaders and current discussions and current policy issues, many of which are inherently classified.
Have you read the book, sir?
I have not read it, no. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. But he knows, and he was advised not to write it, and he was advised very strongly not to write it until it's cleared. And he couldn't wait, and we'll see what happens. But I think he's got, personally, I would imagine he has, when you do classified, that to me is a very strong criminal problem. And he knows he's got classified information. Any conversation with me is classified. Then it becomes even worse if he lies about the conversation, which I understand he might have in some cases. So we'll see what happens. They're in court, or they'll soon be in court, but he understands he did not complete a process or anywhere near complete a process.
On a separate foreign policy issue, sir, you faced a little bit of criticism from congressional Republicans, including Representative Cheney, about your decision to withdraw troops from Germany. Are you reconsidering that at all?
So we have 52,000 soldiers in Germany. It's a tremendous amount of soldiers. It's tremendous cost to the United States. And Germany, as you know, is very delinquent in their payments to NATO. And they're paying 1%, and they're supposed to be at 2%, and the 2% is very low. It should be much more than that. So they're delinquent of billions of dollars, and this is for years delinquent. So we're removing we're putting the number down to 25,000 soldiers. We'll see what happens. But Germany has not been making payment. In addition to that, I was the one that brought it up. Everybody talks about Trump with Russia. Well, I brought this up a long time ago. Why is Germany paying Russia billions of dollars for energy, and then we're supposed to protect Germany from Russia? How does that work? It doesn't work. So Germany's delinquent. They've been delinquent for years, and they owe NATO billions of dollars, and they have to pay it. So we're protecting Germany, and they're delinquent. That doesn't make sense. So I said we're going to bring down the soldier count to 25,000 soldiers. It varies. It's around 52,000 now, but it varies. But it's a lot. And as you know, those are well-paid soldiers. They live in Germany. They spend vast amounts of money in Germany. Everywhere around those bases is very prosperous for Germany. So Germany takes, and then on top of it, they treat us very badly on trade. We have trade with the EU, and Germany being the biggest member, very, very badly on trade, and we're negotiating with them on that. But right now, I'm not satisfied with the deal they want to make. They've cost the United States hundreds of billions of dollars over the years on trade. So we get hurt on trade, and we get hurt on NATO. Now, with NATO, I've raised other countries $140 billion. They're paying $140 billion more because I interceded. I said, look, we're protecting you. You have to pay your bills, because it was going like this until I got here. Now it's gone like a rocket ship. But one of the only countries that hasn't agreed to pay what they're supposed to pay is Germany. So I said, until they pay, we're removing our soldiers, a number of our soldiers, by about half. And then when we get down to 25,000, we'll see where we're going. But Germany has been delinquent, and why should we be doing what we're doing if they don't pay? And they're supposed to pay. And the number they're supposed to pay, actually, at 2%, the 2% should be higher. And we're also talking about for many years. This isn't a new phenomenon. This is going on for many years, where they've taken advantage of the United States. But everybody has. Under Biden and under Obama, what they've done to this country is unbelievable. And I'm not only talking about Germany, by the way, I'm talking about plenty of other countries. But NATO now is paying $140 billion more. If you look at the Secretary General, who's terrific, Stoltenberg, he's been terrific. He's probably my biggest fan. He said nobody else could have done what Trump did, because I raised the other countries by $140 billion, because we end up paying the difference. The United States pays the difference to protect Europe. So we protect them, and then they take advantage of us on trade for many, many years. We're not talking about now, less so now, for many years. So we're working on a deal with them, but it's very unfair. And I would say by far the worst abuser is Germany.
Mr. President, on Seattle, you said last week on Seattle that if the mayor of Seattle, the governor of Washington, didn't take steps to end the occupation of the Capitol Hill neighborhood, you would step in and you would do something. 100%. They still haven't ended it. They're negotiating. Are you considering taking action?
They're negotiating garbage removal. These people have taken over a vast part, a major part, a very good part of a place called Seattle. Seattle's big stuff. That's a major city. And we have a governor who's a stiff, and we have a mayor who said, oh, this is going to be a love fest. And by the way, these are violent people that took it over. These are not people that are nice people. I saw on your network today, John, I saw what went on with the hitting and the punching and the beating and all the other things going on in Seattle. And you have a governor that doesn't do a damn thing about it. And you have a mayor that doesn't know she's alive. She's talking about it's going to be a love fest this summer. Now, if they don't do the job, I'll do the job. And I've already spoken to the Attorney General about it. But if they don't do the job, we will do the job.
What can you do?
About 10 different things, any one of which will solve the problem quickly.
Can we go through a whole list or a partial list?
We don't have to go through any list. We can do a lot of things.
Mr. President.
I think it's incredible also that the radical left press doesn't cover it. They're acting like nothing happened. You turn on the news, you look at the news, you don't even see stories about it. If the right ever took over a city, conservative Republicans took over a city, it would be the biggest story in history. You can't even find stories about Seattle. It's incredible. They've taken over, we'll see. I tell you what, the American public is very angered by that. Seattle is a major, important city. And the Democrats, I guess you say radical left, but it's not even radical left. It's just Democrat. Where we have our problem are Democrat-run cities. If you look at Minneapolis, if you look at other cities that have had trouble, they're Democrat in virtually every case that I can think of. I can't think of one other case. These are Democrat-run cities. Minneapolis, where the police are told to run for your lives. Don't do anything. And if I didn't get involved and send in the National Guard, and it was at my insistence that they did that, and as soon as I did that, everything stopped in Minneapolis 4 days, 5 days later.
Is there a timeline that you're thinking here, Seattle?
No, there's no timeline. We're watching it very closely. These are violent people that are dealing violently, and I think what I'd like to see before we do something, I'd like to see the press get in and cover it, because it's not that they're covering it badly, they're hardly covering it all. Think of this. A group, Antifa and others, radical lefts, they went into a major U.S. city, Seattle, and they took over a big percentage of that city, and the press doesn't want to cover it. And we have a mayor who's scared stiff. She doesn't know what's happening. We have a governor that's one of the most overrated politicians in the country. He just ran for president. He got less than 1%. He actually probably, I would have said less than 0, but I'm not sure that's possible. He got nothing. He got no votes, nothing. The whole thing, the guy was out there fighting. At the end, he got 0, right? 0. So he failed. And now he goes back and they take over a city and he doesn't say anything about it. Worse, he said he didn't hear it. A day later, he said, I didn't hear anything about it. They took over a city, Seattle, and he said, I didn't hear anything about it. So look, the governor has to call out the troops, do what he has to do, has to call out the National Guard, has to do something. Because, you know, the problem with what happened in Seattle is it spreads. And all of a sudden they'll say, let's do some other city, and let's do another one. And we're not going to let it happen. So timing-wise, hey, we're all set to go. We're watching the process. But the most amazing thing about the process is how the fake news media doesn't want to cover it. To me, that's the most amazing thing. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Saturday night will be a big night. That's a big night. I hope you're all going to be there. It's going to be very big. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go, guys. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Thank you. Little quicker, let's go.
I am.
Goodbye, guys.
Yeah, tell me. Yes. Yes. We'll do it. Thank you.